I used to believe that life followed a predictable rhythm. You grow up, find love, build a life together, and if you do everything right, happiness follows. I thought I had done everything right. I worked hard, provided for my family, and cherished the woman I married. But looking back now, I realized I was the only one holding on to that belief. It all started on a morning that should have been like any other. The scent of fresh coffee drifted through the house. Sunlight streamed through the kitchen window, and the soft hum of the dishwasher filled the quiet. I sat at the table, glancing at the woman across from me. Marlene, my wife of 10 years. She was scrolling through her phone, half-heartedly stirring her coffee, completely lost in whatever was on the screen. "Morning," I said, trying to meet her eyes. She barely looked up. "Morning." That was it. No smile, no warmth, just a hollow word before she returned to her scrolling. It wasn't the first time I had noticed the distance growing between us, but something about that moment made it hit differently. I told myself it was just stress. She'd been acting detached for months, but I kept making excuses. "She's tired," I would tell myself. "She's got a lot on her mind." I wanted to believe that, but deep down I knew better. Something was off. That day at work I found myself distracted. Numbers blurred together on my screen. Phone calls felt like white noise, and the usual rhythm of my routine felt wrong. It wasn't until I reached for my phone during lunch that I realized I hadn't received a single text from Marlene. Not even a simple, "How's your day?" For years, we had always checked in with each other. A quick message, a shared joke. But now, silence. I typed out a simple, "Thinking of you. Hope your day's going well." It took her 3 hours to respond. "Busy. Talk later." That was when the sinking feeling in my stomach became impossible to ignore. I wish I could say I confronted her right then and there, but I didn't. Instead, I spent the next few days watching, observing, noticing the little details I had overlooked before. The way she always kept her phone face down. The way she'd smile at messages but never share what they were about. The way she suddenly had plans that didn't include me. Then came the moment that shattered everything. I had left work early, something I rarely did. I wanted to surprise her, maybe take her out for dinner, do something to reconnect. But when I pulled into the driveway, I saw an unfamiliar car parked outside, a beat-up sedan with tinted windows. I stepped inside quietly. The house was eerily silent, except for muffled laughter coming from the living room. I moved closer, my pulse hammering in my ears, and then I saw them. Marlene, curled up on the couch, leaning into a man I had never seen before, her head on his shoulder, her fingers trailing along his arm, her laughter soft and intimate in a way that cut me deeper than any betrayal ever could. I must have made a sound, because she turned abruptly, her face draining of color the moment our eyes met. "Wesley," she whispered, like she had just seen a ghost. I didn't yell. I didn't demand an explanation. I just stood there, feeling something inside me collapse. The man beside her, some scruffy guy who looked like he had never worked a day in his life, shifted uncomfortably. He wasn't even ashamed, just indifferent. Marlene swallowed hard. "I was going to tell you." I let out a hollow laugh. "Oh yeah? When?" She had no answer. And in that moment I realized something painful. I was the only one in this marriage who had been trying. I didn't fight for her. I didn't beg. Instead, I turned around and walked away. That night I sat in our bedroom, staring at the life I had built, the framed photos, the neatly folded laundry, the closet filled with clothes that had once belonged to a happy couple. But the man in those photos, the man who believed in forever, he was gone. I reached for my laptop, opened a blank document, and started typing. Resignation letter. Not for my job, for my marriage. Marlene had made her choice. Now it was time for me to make mine. The first thing I felt wasn't rage. It wasn't even sadness. It was a quiet, suffocating emptiness, like I had been walking through a fog for years and suddenly stumbled off a cliff. I thought love, real love, was something you could hold on to if you just tried hard enough. But now, as I sat in the dim glow of my bedroom, staring at the resignation letter on my screen, I realized I had been gripping a ghost. The house was silent, but my mind was screaming. Every memory, every sacrifice, every moment I had chosen to put Marlene first, it all played back in my head like some cruel montage. I had spent years working late to give us a better future. I had pushed through exhaustion, through stress, through every godforsaken moment when I wanted to just stop and breathe, all because I believed in us. And yet, somewhere along the way, I had become background noise in my own marriage. I should have confronted her. I should have demanded answers. But the truth was, I didn't need them. I had seen enough in that moment. The way she fit against him like they had done it 100 times before. The way her first reaction wasn't guilt but fear that she had been caught. I closed my laptop, exhaling slowly. I needed air. Stepping outside, the cool night air wrapped around me like a bitter reminder that the world kept moving, even when your life was crumbling. The street was quiet, the only sound being the distant hum of cars on the main road. I found myself walking, letting my feet take me wherever they wanted. I ended up at the old diner we used to go to when we first started dating. It was nearly empty, just a couple of late-night stragglers hunched over their coffee cups. The waitress, an older woman with tired eyes and a kind smile, greeted me like she had 100 times before. "Rough night, honey?" she asked, pouring me a cup of coffee before I even had to ask. I let out a breathless laugh. "You have no idea." She didn't pry, just gave me a knowing nod and walked away, leaving me alone with my thoughts. I ran a hand down my face, staring at the swirling steam rising from my cup. What now? What the hell was I supposed to do? Leaving felt impossible. Staying felt unbearable. But the thing that gutted me the most wasn't even the betrayal itself. It was the fact that, deep down, I knew she had stopped loving me long before I ever caught her. I just hadn't been ready to see it. I don't know how long I sat there, watching the coffee go cold. The waitress came back, topping it off without a word. And then my phone buzzed. I hesitated before looking at the screen. Marlene. I stared at her name, at the little notification that told me she had sent a message. For a moment I thought about ignoring it, letting her sit in silence the way I had been forced to. But curiosity, or maybe stupidity, got the best of me. "We need to talk." I should have expected that. Instead of responding, I turned my phone over, pressing it against the cold surface of the table. What was there left to say? She had already spoken loud and clear. I wasn't enough for her. And yet, I was still sitting here, trying to figure out if I was strong enough to walk away. The truth is, I didn't have an answer. Not yet. But I did know one thing. By the time she realized what she had lost, it would be too late. I didn't respond to her message that night. I didn't respond the next morning either. In fact, I barely acknowledged her existence when I got home. I walked in, tossed my keys on the counter, and went straight to the bedroom like nothing had happened. If she wanted to talk, she'd have to come find me. And of course, she did. I was sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at my half-packed suitcase. I wasn't sure what my plan was yet, whether I was leaving for a few days or for good, but I knew I couldn't stay in that house, pretending like things were fine. I heard her footsteps in the hallway before she hesitated at the door. "Wesley," she said, her voice soft, almost rehearsed. I didn't look up. "What?" She sighed, stepping inside. "We should talk." I clenched my jaw. We should talk. Now she wanted to talk. Not when she was sneaking around. Not when she was wrapped around that guy like I had never existed. No. Now, when she realized I wasn't going to beg, she suddenly wanted to talk. I finally met her gaze, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel love when I looked at her. I didn't feel that warmth I used to when I saw her standing in the doorway after a long day. I felt nothing. "All right," I said, leaning back on my hands. "Talk." Marlene bit her lip, arms folding across her chest like she was trying to make herself smaller. "I made a mistake." I let out a hollow laugh. "A mistake?" She nodded quickly, taking a step forward. "It didn't mean anything, Wes. I was just—" She hesitated, looking for the right words, but I could already see the excuses forming behind her eyes. "You were just what?" I pushed. "Bored? Lonely? What?" She swallowed hard. "I was lost." I stared at her, waiting for more. That was all she had. "Lost," I repeated. She nodded. "You work so much. You're always busy, and I felt like, I don't know, like I wasn't a priority anymore." I exhaled through my nose, shaking my head. "So your solution was to replace me?" Her eyes widened. "No, it wasn't like that." I stood up, forcing her to take a step back. "Then what was it like, Marlene? Explain it to me, because I must be missing something." Tears welled in her eyes, but they didn't move me. Maybe if this had been years ago, I would have crumbled at the sight, but now I just saw them for what they were. An act. A desperate attempt to manipulate me into thinking she still cared. "I thought you didn't love me anymore," she whispered. I laughed, shaking my head. "You thought I didn't love you?" I gestured around the room. "Everything I've done, every late night, every hour I've worked, who do you think I was doing it for? For fun?" She wiped at her eyes. I know, but I just felt so alone." I clenched my fists, trying to keep my voice steady. "You felt alone, so you turned to him?" She didn't answer. And that silence told me everything I needed to know. I stepped past her, grabbing my suitcase. "You made your choice, Marlene. Now you get to live with it." She grabbed my arm. "Please, just give me a chance to fix this." I looked down at her hand, then back at her. "Why? Now? Because you got caught?" "No," she whispered, but the hesitation in her voice betrayed her. I pulled my arm free. "You don't love me. You love the life I built. And now that you see it slipping away, you're scared." Her lip trembled. "That's not true." I gave her one last look, one final moment to tell me something real, to say something that would make me believe she actually gave a damn about what she had done. But she didn't. So I walked out, and for the first time in years, I felt free. I expected to feel some kind of relief when I walked out that door, but all I felt was exhaustion, the kind that settles deep in your bones, weighing you down until even breathing feels like work. The air outside was cold against my skin, the sky dark with a brewing storm. And for the first time in years, I didn't have anywhere to go, no destination, no plan, just an overwhelming need to be anywhere but there. I didn't drive far. I ended up in a parking lot of an old motel just outside of town, the neon vacancy sign flickering like it hadn't been maintained in years. I checked in without saying much, nodding as the old man at the desk handed me a key. The room was exactly what you'd expect. Stained carpet, dim lighting, a television that probably hadn't worked in a decade. But it was quiet, and I needed quiet. I dropped my suitcase at the foot of the bed, sat down and stared at the wall. The silence was suffocating. No hum of the dishwasher running in the background, no muffled sound of Marlene moving around the house, no soft breathing beside me in bed. Just nothing. I should have been angry. I should have been livid at the fact that she had the audacity to try and twist things, to make me feel like it was somehow my fault. But instead, all I could feel was the weight of wasted years pressing down on me. Years spent building something with a woman who had been looking for an escape the entire time. My phone buzzed beside me, pulling me from my thoughts. I didn't have to look to know who it was. Marlene. I ignored it. Then another buzz, and another. I grabbed the phone, exhaling sharply as I unlocked it. Wes, please answer. Can we talk just for a minute? I messed up, I know that, but don't just walk away. I don't want to lose you. I stared at the messages, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. A few hours ago, she had been curled up with another man, completely unbothered by what it would do to me. And now that I was gone, she suddenly cared. I locked the phone, tossing it onto the nightstand. Let her sit with the silence for a while. Let her feel what I had been feeling for months, maybe even years. The storm hit sometime after midnight. Thunder rolled in the distance, rain pelting against the window in steady, relentless waves. I didn't sleep, couldn't. My mind wouldn't shut off long enough to let me. I kept thinking about every moment I had ignored, every red flag I had brushed off, the way she had stopped saying "I love you" first, the way her smiles never quite reached her eyes anymore, the way she had been pulling away, 1 inch at a time, until I was left grasping at air. I should have seen it coming, but I didn't. Morning came too soon, and with it, more missed calls and messages from Marlene. A part of me wondered if she had spent the night waiting up for me, staring at the door, hoping I'd walk back in. Maybe she had cried. Maybe she had finally realized that she had crossed a line she couldn't erase. It didn't matter. I needed space. So instead of responding, I packed up my things and drove, not to work, not back home, just anywhere. Somewhere that didn't have her scent embedded into every surface, where I wasn't haunted by the sound of her laughter with another man. I ended up at a coffee shop on the other side of town, the kind of place where no one knew my name. I sat at a corner table, hands wrapped around a steaming mug, and tried to convince myself that I was okay, that this was just a rough patch I would get through. But then, as I scrolled through my phone absent-mindedly, something caught my eye. A new post on social media. Marlene. I almost didn't click it, almost didn't give in to the curiosity, but my thumb moved on its own, and suddenly I was staring at a picture of her, sitting alone in our living room, eyes red-rimmed, hair messy, wearing one of my old sweaters like it still meant something to her. The caption: "Sometimes you don't realize what you have until it's gone." A deep, bitter laugh escaped me before I could stop it. Was that supposed to be for me? Some grand declaration of regret? Or was it just another way to paint herself as the victim, to get sympathy from friends who didn't know the whole story? I put the phone down, running a hand down my face. She still didn't get it. This wasn't about a single mistake. It wasn't about one bad choice, one bad night. It was about everything leading up to it. Every lie, every distance she had put between us. Every time she had chosen to let me believe we were okay when she knew we weren't. And the worst part, now that I was gone, she finally wanted to fight for us. But it was too late. I wasn't sure where I was going from here. I didn't have a plan. Didn't have all the answers yet. But I did know one thing. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't going to be the one fighting to hold things together. That was on her now, and I wasn't sure she had it in her. It was strange waking up without her next to me. For 10 years, my mornings had started the same way. Her alarm going off before mine, the faint scent of coffee in the air as she moved around the kitchen, the occasional sound of her humming some old song she loved. Even when things started falling apart between us, even when she pulled away, there was still the comfort of routine. But now, as I lay in this unfamiliar motel bed staring at the ceiling, there was nothing but silence. I had spent the last 24 hours ignoring her, letting her sit in the mess she created, letting her feel the weight of my absence the way I had felt hers long before I ever walked out that door. And yet, I knew this wasn't over, not by a long shot. Marlene wasn't the type to let things go. By mid-morning, my phone had buzzed so many times I finally had to turn it off just to get some peace. I could imagine her, sitting in her house, pacing the floor, checking her phone every few seconds, waiting for a response that wasn't coming. Maybe she had replayed the last few days over and over in her head, searching for the moment she lost control of the situation. Maybe she was finally realizing that I wasn't going to be the same man who would drop everything just to fix what she broke. Or maybe she was already trying to find a way to pull me back in. I spent the next few hours driving aimlessly, lost in thought. I stopped at a gas station, grabbed a coffee that tasted like burnt regret, and stared at my reflection in the dirty bathroom mirror. Who was I now? I had spent so much of my life defining myself by my marriage, by my role as her husband, that I wasn't sure what existed outside of that. Without Marlene, without the home we built together, without the routine we shared, who was I? I didn't have an answer. By the time I made it back to the motel that evening, my body was exhausted, but my mind wouldn't shut off. I unlocked my phone, scrolling through the dozens of unread messages from her, each one more frantic than the last. "Wes, please talk to me. I know I messed up, but we can fix this. I don't want to lose you. I don't know how to be without you. Why are you doing this to me? If you love me, you'll come home." That last one made my stomach turn. If I loved her, was that what this was now? A test? Some kind of sick game where my love was measured by my ability to overlook what she had done? I didn't respond. I should have known she wouldn't take silence as an answer. It wasn't until I stepped out to grab something from my car that I saw her. Marlene, standing by my car, arms wrapped around herself, her eyes wild and desperate as she spotted me. The sight of her there, like some kind of ghost from a life I was trying to leave behind, made my heart slam against my ribs. "What the hell are you doing here?" I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. She took a shaky breath, stepping closer. "I didn't know where else to go." "That's funny," I scoffed, "because last I checked you had someone else to go to." Her face crumpled, but I didn't feel bad. Not anymore. "Wes, please," she whispered. "I can't do this without you." I ran a hand down my face, exhaling through my nose. "You should have thought about that before you decided I wasn't enough for you." She shook her head quickly. "I never said that. I cut her off. "You didn't have to." For a long moment, we just stood there, the silence stretching between us, filled with all the things we would never be able to fix. Then she did something I didn't expect. She reached into her bag, pulling out a stack of papers and shoving them toward me. I frowned, hesitating before taking them. My hands trembled as I saw what they were. Thanks statements. Every single account we had. And right there, in black and white, was proof of what I should have already suspected. Withdrawals, large ones, money siphoned from our savings, transferred out little by little, disappearing into an account I didn't recognize. Marlene was shaking. I didn't mean for it to get this bad. I flipped through the pages, my vision blurring. The withdrawals started months ago, long before I caught her with him. I let out a bitter laugh. So it wasn't just me you betrayed. You were draining our accounts behind my back, too. Tears welled in her eyes. It wasn't like that. Then tell me, I challenged. What was it like? She opened her mouth, but no words came out. I shook my head. I should have left a long time ago. I didn't wait for her to finish. I turned around, walked back inside the motel, and slammed the door in her face. This wasn't about fixing things anymore. This was about getting out before she dragged me down with her. I should have known Marlene wouldn't just walk away. That wasn't her nature. She wasn't the kind of person who accepted consequences, who let things slip out of her control without a fight. For years I had mistaken that for passion, for some fiery determination that made her unique. But now I saw it for what it really was. Manipulation, wrapped in just enough vulnerability to make you believe she was worth saving. I barely slept that night. Even after slamming the motel door in her face, I could feel her presence just outside, lingering, waiting, hoping I would crack. I didn't. But when I woke up the next morning and checked my phone, I realized her silence hadn't meant surrender. It had meant strategy. I had over a dozen missed calls, not just from Marlene, but from mutual friends, from her sister, even from my mother. The texts followed a pattern, each one more urgent than the last. Wes, you need to call me now. I stared at my phone, a sinking feeling settling in my gut. Marlene was good, too good. She had always known how to twist a narrative, how to position herself as the wounded party no matter the circumstances. And now she had done exactly that. I debated ignoring it all, blocking the numbers, shutting off my phone, disappearing for a few more days. But something told me if I didn't get ahead of whatever stories she was spinning, it would only get worse. So I made a mistake. I went back home. The house looked the same from the outside, like nothing had changed. But the second I stepped through the front door, I knew I had walked into something I wasn't prepared for. The air was thick, heavy, like the weight of emotions had seeped into the walls. And there, sitting on the couch wrapped in a blanket, looking fragile and broken, was Marlene. She looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes, like she had been crying for hours. You came back. I shut the door behind me, keeping my stance firm. You called half the people we know and told them I abandoned you. What the hell are you trying to do? Her bottom lip trembled. I didn't know how to reach you. You wouldn't answer, and She swallowed hard, her voice shaking. I haven't been okay, Wes. I've barely slept. I haven't eaten. I don't know how to exist without you. I clenched my jaw. You should have thought about that before you threw everything away. She flinched, like I had slapped her, but I didn't care. Not anymore. I wasn't here for her. I was here to make sure she wasn't destroying my name, my reputation, my entire existence while I was trying to get my head on straight. I just wanted to talk, she whispered, pulling the blanket tighter around herself, like she was trying to make herself smaller. That's all. Can't we just sit for a second, please? Something in me hesitated. Maybe it was the years of history between us, the muscle memory of caring about this woman even after everything she had done. Or maybe it was just exhaustion, the mental and emotional fatigue of constantly fighting her games. Either way, I exhaled and took a seat on the opposite end of the couch, keeping distance between us. For a moment, there was only silence. Then she spoke. I don't know why I did it, she said softly, staring at her hands. I thought maybe I was missing something. Maybe I was chasing some version of happiness I thought I had lost. But the second you walked out, I realized it was never about that. It was never about him. It was about me, about my own self-destruction. I didn't say anything. I was selfish, she continued. I hurt you, and I can't take that back. But I don't know how to move forward without you. I don't know how to fix this. I sighed, running a hand down my face. Maybe you don't. She stiffened. What do you mean? I mean, maybe this isn't something you can fix. Maybe this isn't about finding the right words or crying the right amount of tears. Maybe we're just done. Her breath hitched. No, we're not. I looked at her, finally letting her see the full weight of what I had been carrying. Marlene, I don't trust you. Do you get that? Every time you look at your phone, I'll wonder who you're texting. Every time you leave the house, I'll wonder where you're going. That's not a marriage. That's a slow death. Tears spilled over her cheeks. I can change. I shook my head. You can't change what already happened. Silence stretched between us, thick and suffocating. She wiped her face, her breathing uneven. So that's it. After everything, you're just going to leave. I leaned forward, resting my elbows on my knees. I'm not just leaving. I'm choosing myself for once. Marlene stared at me, her lips parting like she wanted to argue, to fight, to pull me back in. But for the first time, she didn't. She nodded slowly, defeated. Okay. I stood up, heart pounding. I had expected another outburst, another attempt at manipulation, another desperate play. But instead, she just sat there, watching me like she was memorizing the moment I stopped being hers. As I reached the door, her voice came softer than before. Can I ask you something? I hesitated, hand on the doorknob. What? Was I ever enough for you? The question hit me like a brick to the chest, because for years I had thought I wasn't enough for her. I had twisted myself into something unrecognizable, trying to be the man she wanted, the husband she needed. And now in the wreckage of it all, she was the one wondering if she had ever been enough for me. I turned back, meeting her gaze one last time. You were, I said, until you decided not to be. And with that, I walked away for good. Leaving was supposed to be the end of it. I thought that once I stepped through that door, once I put actual distance between us, I'd finally be able to breathe. But I underestimated Marlene. I should have known that for her, letting go wasn't an option. The first few days after I walked out were quiet, almost too quiet. No messages, no missed calls, no desperate attempts to pull me back. At first I thought she had finally accepted it, that she was licking her wounds in private, maybe even processing what she had done. But something about the silence felt wrong. Then it started. It began with small things. My mailbox, usually filled with nothing but bills and junk, suddenly had notes in handwriting I knew all too well. I don't know how to do this without you. Please just meet me one more time. We can find a way back to each other. I ignored them. Then the texts returned, not just from her, but from mutual friends. Hey man, Marlene's really struggling. She's been crying for days. Are you sure this is what you want? She told me she's falling apart without you. I ignored those too, but then things escalated. One night I came back to the motel after another long, aimless drive, only to find Marlene's car parked outside. She was sitting in the driver's seat, hands gripping the steering wheel, her eyes locked onto my door like she had been waiting for hours. I froze. My first instinct was to turn around, to go somewhere else. But I was tired of running. I walked straight to my door, ignoring her. But before I could unlock it, she was out of the car, running toward me.
"Wesley, please!"
Her voice was hoarse, desperate. I exhaled sharply, turning around. "Marlene, what the hell are you doing here?" She stopped a few feet away, her breath coming in uneven gasps, like she had worked herself up into some kind of frenzy before I even arrived. "You won't talk to me. You won't answer. What else was I supposed to do?" "You were supposed to move on." Her face crumpled, like the words physically hurt her. "I can't." I rubbed a hand down my face, exhausted. "Marlene, this isn't love. This is obsession. You don't miss me. You miss the idea of me, of what we had before you destroyed it." She shook her head violently. "No, I miss you. I made a mistake, but people make mistakes all the time. That doesn't mean you throw everything away." I laughed bitterly. "You didn't just make a mistake, Marlene. You made a choice, repeatedly. And you only regret it because you got caught." Tears welled in her eyes, but I wasn't falling for it this time. "I love you, Wes." I sighed. "You don't get to say that anymore." She flinched, like I had just driven a knife into her chest. "I know I hurt you," she whispered. "I know I don't deserve another chance. But I don't know how to be without you. I don't even know who I am without you." I clenched my jaw. Maybe that's the problem. She let out a broken sob. "Please, just tell me what to do. Tell me how to fix this." I looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time, I didn't feel anything. Not love, not hate, not even anger. Just a deep, hollow indifference. "You can't fix it," I said simply. "It's over." For a second, I thought she was going to scream, to fall to her knees, to beg. But instead, something in her changed. The sorrow in her eyes darkened into something else, something colder. She wiped her face quickly, straightened her shoulders, and took a step back. "Fine," she whispered, "if that's how you want it." She turned around, walking back to her car, but something about the way she carried herself sent a chill down my spine, like she had just decided on something, like she had just made a new plan. I didn't sleep that night. Something about her sudden shift in energy unsettled me in a way that I couldn't shake. And I was right to be worried. The next morning, I woke up to something that made my blood run cold. A message, not from Marlene, from my boss. "Hey, Wes, just got an interesting call about you. Can we talk?" My stomach twisted. What the hell was she up to now? I called him back immediately. He answered after the first ring. "Hey, man, listen. I don't know what's going on in your personal life, but someone called the office this morning making some pretty heavy accusations against you." I gripped the phone tighter. "What kind of accusations?" A pause, then he sighed. "They said you've been unstable, that you've been acting erratically, making threats, that you—" He hesitated. "That you might be dangerous." I felt the world tilt slightly. "What?" "I didn't believe it," he added quickly, "but I had to call and check, company policy and all." I could barely process what I was hearing. This wasn't just desperation. This was something else, something calculated. "Marlene," I muttered under my breath. "Your wife?" my boss asked, surprised. "Ex," I corrected through gritted teeth. Silence. Then my boss sighed. "Listen, I get it. Messy breakups can bring out the worst in people. Just Lay low for a while, all right? And maybe talk to someone about this before it gets worse. Before it gets worse. I hung up without saying anything, and that's when I realized Marlene wasn't trying to get me back anymore. She was trying to ruin me. I sat in my motel room, staring at my phone, my mind racing. I should have seen it coming. Marlene had always been the type of person who needed control, and when she realized she had lost it over me, she found another way to try and hold on. She wanted to paint me as the villain, to make me look like the unstable one, the one who had thrown everything away. But I wasn't going to let her. For the first time in weeks, I felt something other than exhaustion, a clarity, a fire. I wasn't going to let Marlene dictate how my story ended. I took a deep breath and did something I never thought I'd have to do. I called a lawyer. The conversation was short but effective. I told them everything, the false accusations, the financial deceit, the manipulation. By the time I hung up, I had a plan, a way to not just walk away from Marlene, but to make sure she could never do this to me again. But before I could move forward, there was one last thing I had to do. I drove back to the house one final time. It wasn't to reconcile. It wasn't to give her another chance. It was to put an end to this once and for all. When I stepped inside, she was waiting for me, like she knew I would come. Her eyes were wary, her lips pressed together like she was bracing for impact. "You're here," she said softly. I nodded. "I came to tell you something." She swallowed. "Wes, please, can't we?" I held up a hand. No more talking, no more begging, no more games. I exhaled sharply, meeting her gaze. "I'm done, Marlene. Not just with this relationship, but with you. You don't get to control me anymore." She looked like she had been slapped. "I never tried to." I laughed bitterly. "Oh, come on. You tried to ruin my name. You called my boss, told people I was unstable. You drained our accounts before I even knew you were cheating. You weren't trying to save this marriage. You were trying to win, but there's nothing left to fight for." Tears welled in her eyes. I was scared. "So was I admitted. For years I was scared of what life would look like without you, of losing everything we built. But now I realize I didn't lose anything worth keeping." She flinched, but I didn't stop. "I spoke to my lawyer. We're making this official. I'm getting my share of the money back. I'm cutting ties, and I'm walking away with my head held high." Her face crumpled, but I shook my head. "You don't get to do this anymore. You don't get to cry and hope I'll fix everything. You made your choice, and I'm making mine." For the first time, I saw it in her eyes, the realization that she had truly lost me, that there were no more chances, no more ways to manipulate her way back into my life. I turned around, walking toward the door. But before I stepped out, I gave her one last look. "I hope you figure yourself out, Marlene," I said, "but that's not my job anymore." Then I left, for real this time. The weeks that followed were a blur of paperwork, meetings, and tying up loose ends. Marlene fought at first, tried to contest the divorce, tried to drag things out, but my lawyer was relentless. In the end, she had no choice but to let go. It wasn't easy, letting go of a decade of my life, of a woman I once thought I'd grow old with. But the moment I signed those final papers, something inside me lifted. I was free, and with that freedom came something I hadn't felt in years: hope. I moved to a new apartment, started reconnecting with old friends, and for the first time in as long as I could remember, I focused on myself. Not on fixing someone else, not on being enough for a woman who never appreciated me. Just me. One evening I sat on my balcony watching the sunset with a cold beer in my hand, and I realized something. I thought losing Marlene would break me, but in the end, it saved me, and I had never felt more alive.